Good evening and welcome to The Update, your home for your local and nationwide news. We've got a full slate of Iowa City, Iowa, and nationwide news, along with updates from the White House and Capitol Hill.
Along with the latest from polls, keeping your facts straight and a look ahead for the rest of the week.
And good evening, folks. Thanks for joining us. I'm Johnny Valtman.
And I'm Jordan Tovar.
And we've got a lot to get into. And of course, starting it off here at the local level, Jordan. And I mean, it is very icy out, very cold. And I feel sometimes that just stops people from going out and doing things. But there's still some stuff happening.
I mean, yeah, Johnny, it might be getting icy out, but the race for a certain city seat is heating up, melting our hearts. Just kidding. Well, hey, anyways, as the race to fill Iowa City's district seat starts to heat up, the two candidates in Ross Nussler and Oliver Weilein were out on the campaign trail this week. This beautiful man next to me right here spoke with both of them.
The two primary winners teamed up for a Q&A where the two introduced themselves and opened the floor up to questions. The key topic was affordable housing within Iowa City. Oliver Weilein drew on what other big cities have done, bringing those concepts to town.
Think outside the box and try to do something different that is data-driven and has is a proven example of working.
While Nussler emphasized the cooperation of nonprofits and other organizations who are already combating the problem.
We have these other partnerships within the community, and that's what's wonderful about Iowa City, is that we are a university town that is heavily nonprofit driven. And so we have these organizations that have the institutional infrastructure to create these programs, and they're already doing it.
The two were also asked on how the city council should respond in the crisis of the next pandemic outbreak.
When the next pandemic happens, we can look, try to be prepared instead of acting reactively.
Through effective collaboration, listening, gathering the information at hand and analyzing it, and then making a decision at that time on how to best respond.
Weilein spoke more of concepts and ideas he'd bring to the table, while Nussler stuck to what he knew and encouraged collaboration.
If elected, I think they'll play a different role on the council. It's one council seat, but different councilors, I think.
The candidates braced the cold and the snow to make it here and talked to about 50 voters, which will be huge as early voting began on Wednesday, and March 6th with the special election will decide who gets into city council. From Iowa City, Johnny Valtman, DITV.
Now we've got a pretty high-profile politician visiting Iowa City this weekend. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders will be speaking at the Englert Theater in downtown Iowa City this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. This is just one stop on his, quote, "Fighting Oligarchy, Where Do We Go From Here?" unquote, speaking tour, which is largely focusing on working-class districts that elected a Republican to the House in 2024. The first leg of his tour kicks off in Omaha before coming to Iowa City on Saturday. Now, Johnny, of course, pretty big deal for Bernie Sanders to be coming to Iowa City this weekend. You know, he ran in 2016 and 2020 trying to run for the Democratic presidential ticket. So I'd like to take things a little smaller, though, to the state level.
Yes, Jordan, and even though we're jumping out of Iowa City and maybe smaller than Bernie Sanders, but still pretty important, the legislative session, can you believe it or not, already a month has passed. A lot has been done, but there's still so much more to do. For the lawmakers, some priority bills have started to be considered by the House, while other bills have caused concern. The first bill under consideration would protect pesticide companies from lawsuits if they follow EPA guidelines. A proposal has yet to be made, but the House has plans in the future to introduce it. The next bill that is being considered by the Iowa House would expand the ban on schools teaching students about sexual orientation and gender identity. This would involve all K through 12 public schools in Iowa. This bill was passed by a subcommittee this last week as it makes its way around the state capitol. Concerns are rising from Iowa residents, mainly parents of kids who are currently in grade school. Some of these parents are concerned that their kids are receiving inaccurate and age-appropriate information on LGBTQ concerns. The Iowa House sent forward a $2.25 raise in public education budget to combat inflation rates. This also includes a $22.6 million one-time payment that would be higher than the projected budget and what Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds proposed back in January. The Iowa Senate will vote, and if passed without a hitch, will go to Reynolds' desk to be signed. Other notable bills making their way through the House and Senate include Reynolds' establishment of a Doge team here in Iowa, citizenship status being included on Iowa IDs, and one that would create a school of intellectual freedom here at the University of Iowa. And with all that going around statewide, if we want to expand our scope, go beyond our horizons, Jordan, outside of our border, a lot of things always happening throughout our country.
Yeah, Johnny, of course, here at The Update, we like it huge. So we're going to get even bigger and take it out to the national level with Jace Bertrand.
Thanks, Jordan. And currently, at least 13 people are dead and thousands more are displaced following severe flooding in the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic U.S. Georgia, West Virginia, and Kentucky have been hit with the worst of the flooding. High-speed winds and dangerously low temperatures are also causing issues for the region as a massive snowstorm continues to blow across the country. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has already declared a state of emergency, with over 340 roads in the state being closed due to flooding. Severe weather has also caused damage in Indiana, Virginia, Tennessee, and states within the Great Lakes region. While snow and ice storms have been rocking the Northeast, high-speed winds have been doing most of the damage in the Southeast. Nearly 500,000 people were left without power over the weekend in Georgia. Meanwhile, 17 have been injured following a crash landing in Toronto. The Delta Airlines flight flipped upside down following a rough landing on the tarmac. So far, no deaths have been reported, though 2 individuals were taken to the hospital in critical condition. This is the 4th major crash reported so far this year, continuing to raise safety concerns for Americans. A lot going on across the country right now, and that's where we're going to take it back to Johnny, who has more with what's going on in the White House.
Thanks, Jason. And Jordan, before we get into the White House, it's a pretty big day for the White House because it is President's Day. A lot of people got school off for it. We didn't. We had to go to school. We had a show this morning, but happy President's Day. And Jordan, just throw out the politics. Who's your favorite president?
Oh, man, throughout all politics, I'd have to say my favorite president's probably FDR. I bet I can guess yours, though.
Who?
Jimmy Carter.
Yes, I love Jimmy Carter.
How'd
Hey,
I
he's
know?
my mic check almost every time. But we're actually going to get into what's going on in the White House right now. And for the first time in a hot minute, we'll be starting off with the administration's role in ongoing wars. President Donald Trump stopped by the Daytona 500 Sunday, and the focus has now shifted to the U.S. beginning talks with Russia to end their war with Ukraine.
Meeting right now, and that's more. I mean, this should have been done 4 years ago, 3 years ago before it started, but it should have been done immediately after it started.
The president did claim that he would have Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky involved in the negotiations. Zelensky met with Vice President J.D. Vance while he continues making stops on his international trip. At a security conference in Germany, Vance strongly pushed for European countries to take some of the work on the international front off of America's hands.
We think it's an important part of being in a shared alliance together that the Europeans step up while America focuses on areas of the world that are in great danger.
In the Middle East, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is making multiple stops as he met with Israel's President Isaac Herzog in Jerusalem. Rubio is working alongside Israel to get their hostages back and end their war against Hamas.
Well, I think we share a common goal. We want to see every hostage released. Frankly, I think, and the president has said this, we want to see him out as soon as we possibly can.
Rubio spent today in Saudi Arabia meeting with the country's crown prince. Now, we couldn't forget to check in on Elon Musk and his Doge agency. Doge recently requested access to the Internal Revenue Service's taxpayer system database where sensitive taxpayer information lies. Protests have spurred from this and other actions done by Musk and his Doge agency, where protests are in front of Tesla dealerships and government agencies that have been affected by Doge.
No one elected Elon Musk and his minions, and no one has allowed him to have access to this information. This is a violation of the separation of powers.
As you can see, a very busy slate for the administration in the Daytona 500. What a race. 3 crashes within the last 50 laps. Another instant classic. And Jordan, you know, we are missing Kayla Smith tonight. She is out with a hand injury. And so, unfortunately, you're not doing pole watch. But I heard you're picking something else up.
Yeah, Johnny, you know, I'm always excited. I'd do anything for you. And, you know, since I'm not doing pole watch this week, like you said, I came to pick something up. And this week, I'm doing the Congress update. And some big steps were taken this week towards President Trump's budget and border plans. House Budget Committee members passed a measure that would create trillions of dollars worth of tax cuts. The GOP is calling for at least $1.5 trillion in spending cuts with the new budget. It also lifts the debt limit for around 2 years and includes $300 billion in more border and national security spending. Now that's divvied up as $175 billion for the border and $150 billion on national defense. And after a long day of debate, the committee did eventually approve it, and it will head to the House floor at the end of the month. Also on the agenda this week in Washington are more of President Donald Trump's cabinet nominees. Kash Patel, Trump's pick to lead the FBI, is one of the more controversial nominees. He's been questioned numerous times about his comments on wanting to gut the FBI and its staff and talking about coming after journalists as well. Other nominees up for confirmation hearings this week include voting on Howard Lutnick's nomination for the Secretary of Commerce and more hearings on Linda McMahon for the Secretary of Education and former Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler for the Small Business Administration admin. Now there's 3 things guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and Jace doing fact check.
Yeah, you're right, Jordan. And we're going to be sending it over to Jace. He's always got his hands tied trying to figure out, what to set straight. And I'm sure he's got a lot for us this week. So we're going to send it over to Jace for fact check.
Thanks, guys. And today we're going to be looking at lies being spread by the Trump administration against U.S. aid. Continuing his tirade for the last few weeks, President Trump claimed that U.S. aid funneled over $8 million to the magazine Politico. Politico is a neutral left newspaper and has criticized Trump in the past. While it is true U.S. aid paid Politico millions of dollars, this was to renew subscriptions to the paper for federal employees rather than being part of a funding contract. Politico is privately owned and thus can't receive government funding. And this isn't new. The White House has been paying for newspaper subscriptions for decades now. In fact, over $10 million were given to Politico during the first Trump administration. It's only an issue now because the money came from Trump's latest target. And it's hard to be shocked by the lies swirling on social medias these days, but some of them are just so lazy that you still gotta laugh, like this. And now I'm going to send it back to Jordan and Johnny, where they're going to say what we can expect for the week ahead.
Now, Johnny, I'm not sure how much I can say on this show before Walt Disney and the gang sends the black trucks to my home, but one of my favorite shows growing up was That's So Raven. And of course, if you don't know, that's a show about a girl that can see the future. And Johnny, you've got something for the future for us here.
I do, Jordan, and I'm no future teller, but Cara Doolan thought I was last year. I just like piecing things together and just making accurate guesses. And, sometimes they do come true. So here's what I think we should be looking out for in the coming week. With the United States coaxing Russia to the negotiation table, there is a small sense of optimism that the war in Europe will be resolved. However, European countries are scrambling on how to react after President Trump made it clear that they are not a key priority to the U.S. at this time. Speculation also surrounds the deal as European countries have yet to find a role to play in the potential peace talks. While Ukraine is being signaled to being a part of the talks, it's hard to gauge how big of a role they could play. And on Sunday, Germany will have a vital step to establishing a new government following a collapse back in December. There are 5 candidates running for the position of chancellor, a mix of hard-right, centralist, and leftist ideologies. Germany has experienced multiple attacks in prior months. Their economy is in a dire time, and with potential negotiations with Russia to end the war, their choice on Sunday will have a major impact across the world. And the reputation of the Justice Department is being thrown around as resignations, firings, and more are rocking the department. The department is supposed to maintain neutrality no matter what party is heading the executive branch. However, Trump is fighting the department, requesting the names of thousands of investigators, names who investigated the insurrection on January 6, 2021. The current administration also requested criminal charges against New York City's Mayor Eric Adams be dropped as he assists the Trump administration in their fight against illegal immigration. Take into account DOJ also snooping around and what seems to be constant friction between the White House and the Justice Department, major changes may be on the horizon.
Well, thank you, Johnny. I certainly feel a little more enlightened after that.
And that's good to know, Jordan, because so much can happen, but I'd like sitting down and figuring out what 3 things can happen and what I think we should be looking out for. So that is for the week ahead, and next week we'll be touching on some more of that stuff. But for now, we'd like to thank you for tuning into the update tonight, where you'll find all your news and politics.
Tune in next week for more updates from the local level to the nationwide level.
From the update, I'm Johnny Baldwin.
And I'm Jordan Tovar. Have a wonderful night.